Thank you very much for joining us today. For anyone that's not already familiar with you, can you give us an introduction and tell us what you're going to talk about?
Sure, Sean. My name is John Livesay. Inc. Magazine's called me the Pitch Whisperer, and I help people go from invisible to irresistible. And I'm going to be talking about the importance of having a great pitch and how to get new clients when you become a storyteller.
Perfect. One of the points I saw in your writing and your presentations is that your identity is your most valuable asset. When you talk about that, are we talking about a business identity, a personal identity, or both? And are there rules for both in a world where your personal identity is out there way more than it used to be?
I love that question. It has a lot of layers to it. So let me hit one at each one. So that came about from when I was laid off from Condé Nast in 2008, after being there for over 15 years. And I realized that my job had vanished, but my personal identity did not. So I think that's very important for people to realize that who you are is bigger than what you do for a living, even if it's your own business. And so that personal identity is the core. The irony is, if you happen to be a small business owner pitching to get a new client or pitching to get your startup funded, at the end of the day, they're still investing in you. And people forget that they're selling themselves first before they sell their product. So it works on both levels.
Okay. Do you think that they need to be related to each other? Can you be crazy, wild, outspoken, polarizing individual with a conservative company, or do they need to have some alignment there as well?
Well, it's best if it's all the same, right? You don't want to be one person at work and one person off work, and because people like people who are authentic. So if your authentic self is crazy and wild, then have a crazy and wild product to offer. And that sinks in with your personality, because otherwise it's a big disconnect for people, right? Why is that guy with, I don't know, tattoos and a belly ring selling financial insurance, right? And vice versa. Why is this conservative person trying to talk to us about, hip nightclubs? So I think if you're gravitating towards something that you're personally passionate about, and I find that the best business owners had a problem they wanted to solve for themselves, figured out a way to do it, and then saw that there was a market for other people just like them, and they've been in their shoes, that's when you really resonate with your audience.
I think that's absolutely true. That's actually where this business came from. I moved here. I was actually writing ebooks, learning how to market them, and then I met small business owners. And we're from an area where the market has challenges, and they needed help and smaller budgets. And I'm like, well, there's a real need for small businesses to find some marketing support, and that's how we grew. So I think that's absolutely true. And along the lines of that, so trust is obviously really important. That's another point you bring up. Building trust is very important if you're going to sell yourself and your brand. Are there, other than being true to yourself, other than being, you're who you are and vulnerable, are there techniques for building trust faster, than just a typical relationship?
Yes. Well, everything starts with trust. It's the foundation, like you're building a home. So I say there's 3 unspoken questions that people have when you pitch anything. Pitch to get a client, pitch to get hired, whatever. And the first one is, do I trust you? It's the fight or flight response that kicks in. Actually, the handshake started as a sign that I don't have a weapon. It's you don't have to run away. So trust, there's some basic things like eye contact, using the person's name, showing that you're credible and authentic. All those things build trust fast. And if you have to trust yourself first before you can expect, Einstein said, the biggest decision we'll ever make is whether we believe we live in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. And I find that if you choose to believe we live in a friendly universe, then that's the kind of people and clients you take on. But if you're looking for, this client's going to try and rip me off or negotiate a lower price every time or never be happy, then that's what you attract. So the trust is trusting yourself. And as a small business owner, what I found is you have to really trust yourself to figure something out, right? You're not going to have all the answers. And so many people feel paralyzed making any choices to take an action because they don't have it all figured out yet. Just trust yourself that you'll figure it out, or you'll find someone else to help you figure it out.
I think that leads to a really interesting question. When I did work in corporate America, disc profiles were a thing. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And one thing that taught me was that there are people out there that believe they have almost no control over the world around them. Maybe, to your point, a lot like the people that think the world's out to get them. if you have that mindset where you think, the world controls your life, you obviously need to shift that. Are there any good techniques for getting out there and saying, no, I can control my environment. I can control the people I do business with. I can control where I'm going.
One of the exercises I love to do with my clients is to have them write down all the ways that the universe is working for you or life is working for you. And once we start, whatever we focus on, we get more of. So if you start writing down, oh my gosh, Mark Goldstein introduced me to you two, and now I'm on your show, and look how that happened. And then you write down, I got hired by Coca-Cola to come and give a keynote talk at their CMO summit this October about innovation, and that came through a relationship. And you just see how things are working in your favor, and you just keep focusing on that as opposed to letting the negative self-talk kick in, which is no one ever wants to buy from me, this will never work out, blah, blah, blah. We all know what that sounds like. So it's all about literally writing down, these are the ways I know that life is working for me, and you just write them all down and look at them every day and add to it, and you'll get more of it.
That's great. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough that I kind of keep that mindset. And some of that's been through some training and programs. Some of them I think that's the way I've always looked at the world, luckily. So do you recommend doing that every day? I know there are people out there that say write down 3 things you're grateful for every day.
Yes.
Or, take some time in the morning. Is this a daily exercise that'll give you that shift?
I think so, because we're bombarded with so much negativity when you turn on the news, and if you want to buy into all the fear of, the world's not safe and whatever, on and on and on. So how you start your day and how you end your day, bookending, is really key. So if you hop out of bed and start checking your emails right away, then you're in reactive mode. And I tell people, take a breath, meditate, remember 5 things you were happy about from yesterday, and what's your intention today, and what 3 things you're going to do today, and block out the time so that you're not dealing with people constantly emailing you and responding to that, so that you get what you want done in your day. You're in charge, as opposed to just, I'm just reacting all day long and putting out fires.
Perfect. Another critical skill you talk about is adapting, and we know that both as humans and as business owners, the ones that adapt usually are the ones that stay around the longest and win. Part of that ties into the mindset you're talking about, though, as well. So in the face of adversity, are there good techniques for keeping that positive mindset or seeing challenges as opportunities to learn or lessons or to grow? When you're a typical business owner that might feel overwhelmed regularly as it is, and then you lose a key client, you're like, is there something you can do that'll keep you in the right focus so you can get back to growing and running that business and not get stuck in your head about, what you see at the moment as a huge problem?
Right. Well, one of the techniques I use is, I tell my clients, ask yourself, will this be important an hour from now? Will it be important tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? And the more you zoom out, the less you're like, probably not, right? I'll figure it out. I lost a client, doesn't mean I'm never going to get another one. Maybe there's some things I could do to repair and rebuild that relationship. That's also one of my specialties, is helping people do that. So it's really about embracing the disruption that might happen in your own life and all the disruption that's going around you, or you can choose to ignore it. And we all know what happens when you ignore it. You become like Blockbuster, right? So, yeah, no. And obviously Netflix did not ignore what was going on, and pivoted, and is now producing content that wins Emmys. So there's always choice on looking at how to deal with change.
Yeah, there was one conference I went to where the co-founders of Netflix was there, and he told a great story about how they offered to sell to Blockbuster for $50 million because he just had no idea, and Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. And they were like, look at what happened to them now, but it's all about because they were ready to adapt. I don't know if you know the story. They actually started out looking at VHS tapes, and they're like, well, this isn't going to work. And then somebody showed up with they heard about this DVD concept, so they mailed themselves a CD in a greeting card envelope, and it showed up the next day, and they're like, okay, we got something here.
I love it. The story of origin is always so fascinating, and that's a great example of knowing your story of origin when you pitch, because that storytelling pulls people in. And so if you can tell a story of how your company started or how you came up with the idea, it's very engaging when you pitch.
Yeah, they apparently rented Vanna White's jet to get to the meeting and showed up in board shorts and flip-flops because they were at a company retreat. So he had all the great parts of that story.
Nice.
So nice. Yeah, it was great. Going back to something you did touch on, though, repairing relationships. I did have a question. So if you lose a client and you have techniques for getting them back, first of all, how do you decide if it's a client you should get back?
Yes,
Because it's
right.
not always, it's probably not always a good fit.
Well, who you say no to is just as important, if not more important, than who you say yes to take on a new client in the first place, right? So sometimes you need to fire the client versus them firing you because they're more pain than they're worth. But let's assume in this scenario that this is a good client, you like them. There's usually one or two reasons why people leave. One, the competition comes in with less pricing, or you make a mistake and they get mad and leave. Those are the two big reasons why a good client will leave. And so what you have to do is repair and rebuild the relationship. So it's like any relationship, you have to take ownership for what you did if you'd made a mistake and check your ego at the door, basically. So let's assume in this scenario you want the client back. Most people leave because they don't feel like they were listened to. I was working with one client, and they had, hired some subcontractors out to do some things that didn't go through, and they weren't managing them enough, and so they were put on hold. And a year later, they said, "Well, we're going to go back in, and do you have any tips?" And I said, "Yes." Well, what are you planning to say? Well, we thought we'd talk about research and how things have changed in the last year. And I said, no, they don't want to hear from that. It's that great quote from Maya Angelou: nobody cares about what you say until they know you care. So this is about acknowledging what happened, explaining that there's systems in place so it wouldn't happen again, and letting the person vent. And a lot of people will change vendors and not be any happier, but they're never going to come back to you because of their ego. So you have to be the one to reach out and say, and I also talk about how to go from invisible to irresistible. And, the next rung up from being invisible is insignificant. So if a client is mad and leaves you, you're basically become insignificant to them. But the secret here, Sean, is that you still treat them as if they're significant. Remember their birthday. If you see good press on a stock price going up, send them a congratulatory email. Act as if they're still your client and that you care about them as a person, and that's the first step to rebuilding and repairing that relationship.
That's really smart. So I'm going to paraphrase here, but once I saw a quote, and it basically said, along with the point you just made, analyze your clients once a year, keep the A's, make a plan for converting the B's into A's, and basically fire everybody else. Outside of listening, or maybe listening is the key, are there strategies for turning your B and C clients into A clients if maybe they're not there yet?
Sure. The more you understand the problem, the better clients think you have the solution. So you really have to become the master at explaining, this is who this is for, and this is who this is not for. And unless you have this specific problem right now, then we're not a fit. And so you don't waste time trying to convert a C client to an A client if they don't have that problem. So you need to be very specific about who you're going after. And instead of spending time trying to get C's to B's to A's, ask for referrals from your A's. That's a much better use of your time.
Okay. Well, that's another good question then. What's a good way to ask for referrals from your A clients?
Who else do you know I could talk to? In fact, we have a referral fee program in place. We'll give you 10% off if someone you recommend signs up for a year or whatever it is.
Okay, perfect. So just, compliment them and incentivize them essentially.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the 7 most powerful selling secrets?
Wow. Well, there's 7 of them, so I don't know if we have time to go to all 7, but the most powerful one is being comfortable with silence. So when you ask somebody, would you like to buy the house? Let's assume you're a real estate agent, right? And then the person's thinking about it and you get so uncomfortable with the silence, you say, well, what if I throw the refrigerator in? Then you start the whole negotiating process over again. And I've had real estate agents double their sales by just simply saying to themselves, I am patient and calm after they ask if they want to buy. Because people can feel the energy. I mean, the old way of selling was whoever speaks first loses. And that's not any better. So if you just say, would you like to buy the house? And then you just say, you're giving the person time to say yes or no. And they can feel that you're giving them time. And the secret to becoming comfortable with the silence in the room, Sean, is to become comfortable with the silence in your head. So the negative self-talk, oh my God, I really need this commission. If I have to show this person another house, I'm going to lose my mind. So that's what causes you to talk. And so if you calm yourself down through meditation or whatever other techniques you want to use that you can quiet those thoughts in your head so you can become comfortable with the silence in the room. It is one of the most powerful secrets to getting more sales.
Well, it sounds like a lot of these situations, planning and preparation and clarity are the keys to a lot of it. Knowing exactly who the client is you want to work with and what you want to deliver. Being prepared for that sales meeting so you're not uncomfortable when there's silence because you're offering what you're ready to offer and those kind of things. Do you have some techniques for getting that kind of clarity before you go into some of these important meetings?
Sure. What you need to do as much due diligence as possible. So if you're going to be meeting somebody, look them up on LinkedIn, see who else you might know that they know, to establish rapport, see if you have any other things in common, such as where you lived or worked or anything like that. And if somebody's written a blog post on LinkedIn or follow them on Twitter, retweet it, get some rapport going before you even walk in the room.
Okay, that's great. One thing I saw you, and I'm probably going to paraphrase on this too, I think it was nervous butterflies or getting the people in your organization that maybe aren't quite as confident as they need to be in line with what you're trying to do. What are some good techniques for that when you have people that aren't quite there?
Well, it's the concept of we get nervous before a big meeting, right? And the butterflies in our stomach kick in. And so I say get the butterflies to fly in formation as opposed to trying to get rid of them, because it's just nervous energy in your stomach that you need to move out and make a gesture. And when you make it about the audience or your client and not about yourself, the nervous energy dies down because you're in your head going, oh, will they like me? Am I going to blow it or not? And you're like, wait, I'm here to serve. I'm here to make a connection. And then you get the focus off yourself and why you're there to help and inspire and possibly solve a problem for somebody, as opposed to, oh, how do I look and blah, blah, blah. That's what causes the butterflies in your stomach. So just dial it down and focus on them instead of yourself.
And do you think it helps to focus on a smaller thing like, hey, I'm just here to make a connection as opposed to I'm here to make a sale or,
Well, I want people to feel like this is my Olympic moment, right? This is the Super Bowl of meetings and game on. It's just my body. I want to be at my top energy, my top preparation. And if you've done all the preparation, that's a great way to get your confidence up. So prepare, get your butterflies in formation, and just tell yourself, look, I'm ready for this, right? There's nothing to be nervous about because I'm not attached to the outcome, which is one of the other selling secrets, right? You stay in the moment and you don't try to, somebody hits a golf ball, they're, focused on the end result, but they're not stressed out about whether it goes in the hole or not. They're just working on the swing, right? So you do what's in front of you and don't be obsessed with what's happening 2 months from now. It's very similar to dating, right? You go on a first date, you're not thinking about, am I going to marry this person?
Some people probably are, but that brings up some bad dinner questions if you're not careful.
Right.
So.
Yeah. How many kids do you want? What?
So speaking of preparation, one thing, and I'm guilty of this, especially in our industry sometimes too, the classic elevator pitch that, hey, you're at a networking event, you're at a cocktail party, what do you do? If I'm a typical business owner that doesn't have a succinct statement down, how do I come up with that so that I'm not sitting there talking about 4 generations back and blah, blah, blah?
Well, that's my specialty, and people hire me to help them with that because it's so important. You need to be clear, concise, and compelling. And it's a conversation. In other words, it's not an invitation for you to talk for 10 minutes when someone says, what do you do? So you just want to say enough that intrigues them to say, oh, that's interesting, tell me more. So for example, I'll say, how everybody needs a good elevator pitch and few people have one? Well, I'm the pitch whisperer, and I help people go from invisible to irresistible. And then I stop talking and wait for them to say, oh, that's interesting, what's a pitch whisperer? Or how do you get people to go from invisible to irresistible? And then I'll explain that with a story. And then I stop talking. And I'll say, well, as a pitch whisperer, I help people answer the 3 unspoken questions they have. What are the 3 unspoken questions? You see, it's not me just going blah, blah, here's my 10-minute monologue. It's very different. So it's who do you help and what problem do you solve? And then the key is, after you've solved that problem, in my case, after somebody becomes irresistible, they become a magnetic person and pull people in. So the problem is everybody needs a good elevator pitch and few people have one. The solution is I'm the pitch whisperer and show you how to go from invisible to irresistible. And when that happens, you become magnetic and pull in your ideal clients. That's a short, concise, compelling pitch. It says the problem I'm solving, how I do it a little bit, and then what happens after I solve that problem. So if you want to be irresistible and magnetic and pull in your ideal clients, then you might want to work with me, or at least ask me more questions.
That's perfect. So one thing that's becoming more mainstream that we're seeing is, when you're getting into a pitch or when you're getting into sales, not to focus on yourself, to be the guy versus the hero. I think this is how Donald Miller puts it, or there's some people out there doing that thing. I mean, you did that naturally in your pitch. So, old school might have been, I sold 10 million houses last year, we did this. What's your take on that? Do you give a little bit of that credibility, or do you go, no, yeah, I'm here to help you? Is that that key? Like, the problem, here's your problem.
Right.
Here's what I can do to help you with it. Do you not need to put out that credibility right up front?
It's very subtle, right? I mean, a lot of people don't care about, you don't say, for example, I won Salesperson of the Year at Condé Nast. That is not part of my elevator pitch, right? But I did say, at the very beginning, when you said introduce yourself, I said Inc. magazine calls me the pitch whisperer. It's not like I just call myself that and nobody cares, right? So there's a little bit of social proof in there, but then right after it is, and why they call me that is a benefit, how I help you go from invisible to irresistible. So it's all about social proof allows me to help you, as opposed to aren't I great? See the difference?
Absolutely. So why is it important to tap into people's emotions when you're showing them?
Well, let me ask you this. If you wanted to buy a sports car, what would you be more likely to say yes to if the salesperson said, this Ferrari gets X number of miles per gallon, or I said, you know what, Sean, think how great you're going to feel and how sexy you're going to look in this sports car. What do you think? Yeah, people buy emotionally and then back it up with logic, and so many people make the mistake of talking about numbers, and you bore people, and information doesn't cause people to buy, and that's the big thing. It's like, oh, you have to transform, take people on a journey. That's why storytelling is so compelling.
Well, and that's a great. Somebody that I've learned from, they talked about how marketing is essentially taking someone from before to after the buying process, in their head through that story. So are there certain emotions we need to focus on? Like in that one, it was probably maybe status. Like, hey, you're going to be sexy driving this car.
Well,
are there other ones we need to focus on?
Well, it's basically 4 emotions, right? Happy, sad, scared, stuff like that. So in that case, it's about you'll feel happy, right? You'll feel exhilarated, right? It's all about that feeling. Sometimes people take action because they're mad, right? If you want someone to do something to sign a petition, right? So it's all about figuring out, or if you're sad now and you want to learn how to get back to being happy, if you're overwhelmed and scared and stressed out, right? So those are the emotions that cause people to take action.
The pitch whisper.
Yes.
I would imagine that pitching an investor is probably one of the most stressful and difficult situations there are in business, period. To go up to somebody and say, I have an idea that I haven't fully executed and I want your money. So someone that's in that situation, what are the most important things they need to remember to prepare for that meeting?
Well, when you're pitching, you should be answering 2 questions. Why you and why now? Why are you uniquely qualified to execute this idea with your background and your passion for it? And then why now is the perfect time for someone to launch this company? And the same thing is true, when I give keynote talks, it's all about how do you get to yes. You still answer those same type of things to get a new client as well, right? Why we're the best at what we do, and talk about a story of someone who's just like you that I helped so that they can see themselves in the story, and then why now is the best time to take action. For example, with Airbnb, if the economy hadn't been bad in 2008, people probably wouldn't have been willing to let strangers rent a room or their home, right? So, yeah, if we all didn't have smartphones, Uber wouldn't work. So why now is just as important as why you.
That's great. Yeah, you got to give people some urgency. Otherwise, it's I'll listen and maybe I'll give you money down the road. So that's perfect. So we probably have time for one more question. And this was a big one I saw on your thing. How do you ask for what you want and get it?
Well, it all starts with really being compelling. So let's say you're trying to get a job. And at the end of the interview, someone says, well, do you have any questions for us? And I was working with someone who was a millennial, and he said, well, I guess I'd say, what are the benefits and how much vacation do I get? And I go, that's the wrong question. A better question is, what would it look like if I was to exceed your expectations in this job? Now, as a business owner, imagine how happy you'd be if somebody asked you that question, because it says everything about their work ethic, their willingness to go above and beyond. So asking the right questions is one of the best ways to get people to say yes to you.
So in that situation, the right question was essentially that bringing them to the emotional place where they're happy and excited. So is that how you form the right question? Is it basically, like we talked about before, like, let me form a question that shows you where I want you to end up at so you get excited about what I want?
Yes, right. So you're like, oh, you're already imagining that I'm working here and exceeding your expectations, and you have that person start imagining, right brain storytelling, what it would even look like. Because maybe they're just like, we're just trying to get somebody who can do this job. But now you want me to start thinking about what it would look like if you exceeded my expectations? Wow. Well, then I guess you would be doing A, B, and C, or you'd learn really fast, or whatever. You'd help us go above and beyond the job requirements. And so those kinds of things. And so you can ask, your clients, if I gave you a magic wand and could wave that over your problems, what would that look like? Right? And then they start imagining the ideal solution, and then you can say, oh, well, you know what? I think I can bring some of that magic to your problem.
That's great insight, and that's something I would not have thought of, and that's a great way to find out what we need to do. So this has been really great. Thank you very much. I think we covered a lot and got some really great answers, and it was perfect. So for everyone watching that wants to keep working with you, following you, wants to find out more about how you can help them, where would you like us to send them?
My website is John Livesay, Liv as in Victor, ESAY.com. If people text the word pitch to 66866, I'll send a free PDF of the 3 mistakes to avoid when you're pitching for anything. 66866 and the word pitch. And my podcast is called The Successful Pitch. My book is called The Successful Pitch. You see the similarity in the branding there? But it's all on my website, and you can listen to the podcast every week and get engaged with me that way.
Perfect. And we'll make sure to make it easy for everyone to link there under your video.
So great.
They won't have a hard time finding any of that. And we'll put that information out there.
Thanks, Sean.
Well, thanks, Sean. Thank you. This has been great. Thanks again for your time, and we're really excited to have you at the summit.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Brittany.
Bye. We'll talk to you soon, Tom.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.